Thank you for rejoining us here at Manna from Heaven Ministries. My name is David, and we're looking at this week's Torah portion, Pekudei, on the account of, or regarding the census, or the counting, or the numbering of the tabernacle. And we actually had looked at some things that were adding some insight and clarity back in Nehemiah chapter 3. And the reason for that is because this Torah portion mentions the Mifkad gate, the gate of counting, the gate of numbering, and so does Nehemiah chapter 3. That's the specific incident where this area, this gate that had been neglected throughout the duration of their Babylonian captivity, was being repaired. And I was sharing with you how it carries you back, if you begin to look at it, and shows you some of the very same things that happened in Exodus chapter 33 when Moses was able to see the back parts, the hinder part, the living Torah scroll of Yahweh. Now, what's happening here, it helps us, if you can picture in your mind the Messiah as the living word that not only was written, but spoken. And when you saw him in the flesh, as a matter of fact, Yeshua told his disciples, "Have I been with you such a long time? You don't know who I am. If you've seen the Father, you've seen me." So if you saw the Messiah, he was the Word made flesh. He was the Torah scroll, the written word made alive. And if you can picture in your mind where Moses would have been, looking at this Torah scroll, and what Moses is doing as this scroll is unfurled and unrolled in front of him, Moses is taking dictation. Moses, I believe, is writing these things down. Now listen to me. When you see words on a page, if you were to look in the Paleo-Hebrew, the way it was originally written, it was all linear, not broken apart on the pages. And so what he was seeing was what looked like lines or stripes on this Torah scroll. I instantly thought of, by his stripes we're healed. It tells us that in Peter, and it tells us in Isaiah 53. And it puts it in an entirely different light now, because I'm thinking, wait a second, was he talking about the stripes that Yeshua received in his body when he was scourged and whipped prior to getting to the cross? Or was there something more to it than what we were being initially taught? Let's look. In Isaiah 53, where it talks about by his stripes, it's Strong's number 2250, and that word is chaburah. Chaburah. And it's rendered or defined as the mark, listen to me, the mark of strokes on a skin. What is Torah scroll made out of? Skins. What are the written words and letters? Marks or strokes on the skin. Did you hear me? The root of that word, chaburah, is Strong's number 2266. The word is kabar, and it means to bind together, to unite, to join. But it also conveys the idea of something being composed. In other words, written. Are y'all being able to see this? By his stripes we're healed. The word for healed there, you've probably heard several times. It's the word rapha, Strong's number 7495. Of course, it means to be made helpful, to heal. But it can also mean, listen to this, to repair, to sew, to patch up. Did you know that the leaves, if you will, of a Torah scroll are sewn? Did you know when a leaf is damaged that it's repaired? Did you know that the Torah itself represents the covenant? And when you and I abrogate our covenant with Yahweh, it has to be sewn again, repaired. Are y'all beginning to see it? This word literally encompasses the sewing together of a Torah scroll, the marking of strokes or letters, words on its skin, its composition serving to unite and bind together the bride and her groom, thus repairing the breach between them. And so when you hear that phrase, by his stripes we're healed, it's talking far more than just the stripes he received from that scourge. And if you can look at the picture, when the whip would come around, it would wrap around his back, and gravity would cause it to be like this. And it would rip, and it would literally form the same type of lines and strokes that you would have seen on a living Torah scroll. Did you hear what I just said? When he says by his stripes we're healed, he's talking about the stripes here. This is what will heal you. Did you understand what I said? You can talk about Yeshua being bruised and beaten and wounded and his body torn from the whip, the scourge, but that's not what will heal you. What heals you is when you take this word, these strokes on this skin, and apply it. That's what will heal you. Is that hard? Help me out. Smile and nod. We're going to stay here for a while. That's powerful. Now, let's talk about this individual that's working to repair this place called the Mifkad Gate. His name was Malchiah. And of course, if you break it down, it's actually, the root of it is Malek, which means king. The yod on the end of it means my king. And then you have the poetic short form of the word Yahweh. So Malchiah literally means my king is Yahweh. You realize who's repairing this place? You realize who's, even though these are individuals, their names are given to them to remind you of what Yahweh's doing. First of all, you had the one in whom was the source of peace found, and the second one is the one whose king is Yahweh, and they're the one repairing the breach. And yet he turns around and tells you, you are also going to be a repairer of the breach. You think maybe we're going to be tasked with the same job that Messiah was tasked with? I believe so. Let's look at the word goldsmith. He was the goldsmith's son. Again, you need to break these things down into King James English. You'll never see it. I mean, you need to break it down into the Hebrew. You'll never see it in King James. Are you with me? The word for goldsmith, Strong's number 6885, zorefi. Of course, it means goldsmith, but it means, it's from the root of saraf, which means to smelt, fine, test, not I smelt something bad. I want to make sure that my southern vernacular doesn't disserve me there. I'm talking about to melt it down. It can also mean to purify by burning. Did you hear what I just said? Remember what was offered at this gate? The red heifer who was what? Burned. So this individual here, the son of the goldsmith, it leads you to believe that maybe these individuals were probably tasked with helping to offer that sacrifice. That word saraf also means, or carries with it the idea of joining something or combining it in the process of burning. Uniting something or someone in the process of burning. Now you have to ask yourself, what possibly could have been united or joined at this gate during the burning of the red heifer sacrifice? The bride and his groom, or what? Or who were united and joined. Do y'all see that? Then it mentions the word son. Of course, that word is being in Hebrew. It means to begin to build as in a family name. And of course, the word place is the word beit, which means house. And you remember I mentioned to you earlier, I said that word Nethanim. The place over there by the Nethanims. How many of you know you need to know your neighbor? So the neighbor of the goldsmiths were the Nethanims. Well, the goldsmiths had a pretty good job because they were charged with burning something, and in the process of burning it, helping to join two opposites together. Two parties. Can y'all see that? Well, let's look at the Nethanims. In Hebrew, it's Strong's number 5411. Y'all do see that that's in the word, by the way. After him repaired Malchiah, the goldsmith's son, unto the place of the Nethanims. I just wanted you to make sure it's there. The word Nethanims from 5411, Nathin, which means a temple slave, one belonging to the temple. How would you like to live close to the ones that were slaves to the tabernacle? Well, I do, by the way. There's one right there. She's a Nethanim. The root of it is the word Natan, which means to give, to bestow, to grant, to consecrate. The root of the word Natan is the Nun Tav. And it conveys the idea of a tracker, one who traces or outlines the way. Ooh. Yeshua was a Nethanim. How can you say that? Well, he was one who was a servant of the tabernacle of Yahweh. And he also made the statement, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Now, Last week's Torah portion dealt with two groups of people. You remember last week's Torah portion when it says, go and bring a certain amount of gold and silver and brass and all sorts of tapestries. And all those that had a willing heart were charged with bringing them. And then if you finished reading it, you found out after those that had a willing heart were tasked with bringing something, it identified another group called the wise-hearted. There's a little bit of difference between the people that have a willing heart and those that's wise-hearted. Okay? Amen? Immature folks can be willing-hearted but not be wise-hearted. Hello? And just because you have zeal, you're willing to do something, doesn't mean you have the experience, the knowledge, or the wherewithal, the means to get it done. And it's only the testing process of last week's Torah portion and what you're seeing tonight that will able to identify those that are not only willing but wise-hearted. Do y'all see that? Well, the Nethinims were those individuals that were wise-hearted, because the word Nethinim means that they were given. There's a difference between willing-hearted individuals who are givers and an individual who's wise-hearted and becomes given. See, if I'm a giver, the only thing that belongs to the tabernacle is what I'm offering. But if I'm given, if I'm a Nethinim, then I, myself, and everything about me now belongs to the tabernacle. Can you see that? That's the distinction here. And that's what Yahweh's trying to teach you. If you're going to take the psalm of this tabernacle, you need to get this right. The church is full of a lot of willing-hearted individuals, but there's not a lot of wise-hearted folks. Amen. The last thing to get sanctified is your giving, by the way. Amen. And that's exactly right. And the reason that a lot of folks don't give is because they're still so attached to it. Hello? And so if you go back and look at it, Yahweh had to test these folks. These were the ones charged with building the temple, the tabernacle. You're going to be expected to build the tabernacle of Yahweh. Let me share something with you. You're either one who's a giver or you're given. There's no middle ground. If you go back and look at what took place there, you'll see Yahweh had to segregate the folks. Amen? Now, over by the merchants. The word merchants here is the word rakal, and of course it means to sell merchandise, to trade, to traffic, but it can also mean to go from place to place. We got a lot of these traffickers because they are given to slander and gossip. Turn to your neighbor and tell them they finally caught you, didn't they? Over by the merchant's gate. Don't you love it? The word gate here is Strong's number 8179, sha'ar, and of course it means gate, entrance, but its related words mean to reveal, to cleave, to sweep away. But it also can infer something horrid and disagreeable. Pay attention, because this message is powerful. If you miss this, you're going to miss the fact you're being responsible for taking the psalm of the tabernacle. Well, excuse me, I just want to bring an offering. I don't want to be given to the task. Hello. You do that. That's pretty much the mindset of a lot of folks. Amen. Because see, if once I release this offering, I no longer have obligations and responsibility. I've done my part. Hello. But if you're one who is given wholly to the task, my goodness, everything I got, empty the pockets, dig deep, quit giving what's shaking in the pocket. That's what Yahweh's basically saying. Give yourself. Because see, if you give yourself to the tabernacle, to the work of Yahweh, then we've got everything you have. That's what Yahweh's trying to tell us. He wants all of you. He wants you to be a Nethinim. The word sha'ar can also mean to reckon, calculate, measure, as in setting a price. See, the reason that there's such a wide gap between the givers and the given is because we count the price. It's going to cost me to become a given, so I'll just stay over here and be a giver. And to be honest with you, there's not a lot of folks in my position that's smart enough to know the difference. That hurt, didn't it? And so we've been able to get by with it. But Yahweh is sorting folks out.